Hello, I am your teacher, Mr. Pacitti, and this is my classroom here in New Orleans, Louisiana. So put away your mobile phones, put away your Lafayette, because you guys suck. It's time to concentrate. It's time to study. This is SmackDown Live, and this is Graded. We kick things off with one half of the SmackDown Live Tag Team Champions. No, he's not anymore. One half of the former SmackDown Live Tag Team Champion, Shane McMahon. Shane hypes the main event. He talks about the impressive debuts of all of those NXT superstars on last night's Raw and then reveals that they will be in action tonight. But enough about proper wrestlers. Let's talk about Shane McMahon. So Miz comes down the ramp and says that he hasn't slept for 2 whole days. He's so torn up about losing the SmackDown Live tag titles at Elimination Chamber, and he says that it was him that lost those titles. But he has a confession to make. He looks Shane square in the eyes and says, "Shane, I used you." Boo! Not already, surely. But hold your horses, it's not what you're thinking. Miz used Shane because Shane is so bloody good. He used Shane to win those tag titles and make his dad, Big Daddy George, proud. He talks about when George came down to the ring a few weeks ago and got those Mr. Miz chants. And then he said, "I'm proud of you and I love you." And that's the first time that George had ever said to Mike those words, which is ludicrous because obviously he should love him anyway, but also, Miz, you won the WWE title. What is wrong with you, George? Miz apologizes profusely for letting the team down, but if there's one man who can make a rematch, it's you, Shane O'Mac. Rematch, rematch, rematch. Do it, Shane. Do it. New era, right? Then the Usos come out going, whoa, 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 whoa. Whoa, they say they're cool with the rematch, which is good, I guess. It takes a little bit of the heat away from Shane McMahon for just making that rematch when the rematch clause isn't a thing anymore, but still. Anyway, Shane confirms the rematch, and I will give this a C+, a nice bit of storyline development, I guess, but mostly admin here. The Miz, arguably the highlight, showing what seemed to be genuine emotion because of his dad and his dad not loving him, despite the fact it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It was an alright opening to the show, but let's move on. Immediately following this, Aleister Black's music hits, and it's confirmed that we're going to see Aleister Black versus Andrade. Lovely stuff. Andrade largely controls things at the start, but then Black makes a comeback with some of his signature kicks, but then quickly gets dumped over the top rope by Andrade, and most importantly, the crowd are actually into this. Thank you, New Orleans. Andrade with the double knees goes for the hammerlock DDT, but that gets reversed. Black mass, that is your lot. Aleister Black picking up the win and a B in the process. So obviously this was no takeover match, but it was an exciting, albeit slightly short TV match and a nice introduction to Black's character for those unfamiliar with it, and a better opponent choice than, I would say, Elias on Monday Night Raw. We know that Andrade and Black have tremendous chemistry, and this was good. Before I continue, I should point out that, like many, I'm also frustrated about the way that these NXT call-ups, if they are call-ups, we're not quite sure yet, are happening, because I think that we've substituted some exciting debuts by doing this. But I'm going to be assigning my grades on what happens between the ropes. I'm putting those personal feelings aside. This is about the matches. We then go backstage to Gargano and Ciampa, who have been watching that match on a monitor sideways. Obviously, they're confronted by the Bar, which sets up a tag match right now. Gargano and Ciampa versus the Bar. A strong showing here with Gargano and Ciampa fighting from underneath for the majority of the match, which feels weird because we now know them as heels down in NXT. Shouldn't say down in NXT, across in NXT, but still a really enjoyable match. Worth mentioning a pretty nasty moment where Ciampa goes for a sunset flip off the middle rope on Sheamus, and Sheamus just lands directly on Ciampa's knee, and you see Ciampa's knee just bend, but also Sheamus landing on that. It didn't look pretty at all, but props to commentary for selling it, talking about Ciampa's history of knee issues. Continuity. I like it. Good commentary. That's a rarity. Later on, Gargano locks in the Gargano escape, but Cesaro manages to get out of it, and the finish was an unusual one, but one that I liked. So Gargano makes the tag to Ciampa. Ciampa flips over the top rope. Roll up. 1, 2, 3. Those are all twos. 1, 2, 3. DIY win. So yeah, as I say, not especially keen on seeing Ciampa and Gargano branded as the plucky underdog babyfaces here, considering their work in NXT. That's weird, but the match was good, and I think the finish protected the bar with the roll-up. Can't complain too much. I'm going to give this one a B+. Also, hopefully, Sheamus is alright, because that looked nasty, and taking a knee to the back is not fun. Far worse than taking an arrow to the knee. Skyrim jokes. About 5 years late on that one. Subscribe. Next up, the SmackDown Women's Champion makes her way to the ring, Asuka. Does anyone remember her? Colourful hair? Funny little masks? Really, really bloody good? Anybody? No? Okay. Asuka says, let's not talk about Becky Lynch, Charlotte Flair, Ronda Rousey. She is ready for a new challenge. Who's ready for Asuka? Mandy Rose comes out. In all seriousness, Mandy had a really strong showing at Elimination Chamber on Sunday night, but she's not on Asuka's level, is she? This couldn't feel more thrown together at this point. Anyway, it sets up a match, Asuka versus Mandy Rose. Towards the start of the match, Lacey Evans does her whole Grandpa Simpson routine, where she walks down the ramp with her hat, and then she just straight back out of there. And Mandy Rose tries to take advantage of this, trying to roll up Asuka. That doesn't work. But this Lacey Evans stuff is confusing at best, bad at worst. Gonna go with bad. Later on in the match, Mandy Rose hits Asuka with a great knee on the outside. Really, really great stuff. And Mandy Rose has improved tremendously in the ring. She's getting better week in, week out, and I think she's got a great character too. And she was getting in some serious offense here, and she kicked out of some big moves, including a really great Shining Wizard. Asuka goes on to hit Mandy with a knee of her own, and then Mandy's going, "Oh, my eye! My eye! My eye!" But it was all heel work. She pushes Asuka into the middle rope, rolls her up. 1, 2, 3. Mandy Rose has defeated Asuka. I'm going to give this one a C+. Personally, despite all of her improvements, I don't think Mandy is ready for this sort of push, and I think best case scenario is that we get Asuka versus Mandy at Fastlane, and hopefully Asuka absolutely destroys her and then get some proper competition for Mania. Worst case scenario is Asuka versus Mandy at Mania. Actually, no. Worst case scenario is Asuka versus Lacey Evans at Mania, and that's no. Next up, it's the last of the NXT lads. It's that Trevor man, Ricochet, and he is taking on Eric Young from Sanity. Remember Sanity? They were down in NXT too. You got the big Northern Irish guy, the little creepy German guy, one of the best characters in TNA for the last 5 years in Eric Young. Does anyone remember them? They're not on SmackDown much. In all fairness, a really fun match, but it's a Ricochet match, and I think that's sort of to be expected. Eric Young trying to ground Ricochet with all of his flippy flips. The highlights probably being a 180 moonsault over the top rope, and of course the 630 finisher, which puts away Eric Young. Ricochet picking up the win. I'm going to give this a B. As I say, a fun match and a nice introduction to Ricochet's unique in-ring work, and I have no problem with Ricochet beating Eric Young. That's not an issue. My issue is Eric Young coming back to TV after months away just to be jobbed out to Ricochet. That is my issue, especially when Sanity are so good. They're so good. But I guess that's the problem when you've got rosters which are already so stacked, and then you've got new people joining the Performance Center, new people joining NXT, new people being called up all the time. This problem is only going to get worse, and unless they make Raw and SmackDown 6 hours long, I don't want to present that idea. Ignore that, they'll do it. Main event time, and it's a 6-man tag featuring all of the participants from Sunday's WWE title Elimination Chamber match. Classic heel versus babyface stuff. On one side, you've got the new Daniel Bryan, the WWE champion, Randy Orton and Samoa Joe, taking on the team of AJ Styles, Jeff Hardy, and Kofi Kingston. Before the match, Bryan gets on the mic, something I hope never, ever stops, and he says that he's here to educate us. He's going to educate us on who his opponent at Fastlane will be. And it won't be any of the men in the ring right now, which is kind of fair enough because he did beat them all at Elimination Chamber. But I think we all know where this is going. The heels single out Jeff Hardy, really beat him down, which sets up Kofi as the hot tag. Jeff finally manages to make that hot tag to Kofi, and Kofi comes in, unloads on Randy Orton, but Randy Orton gets him out of the ring and drops him back first on the announce table. Bit more back and forth, and then some signature spam from pretty much everyone involved in the ring, which clears the ring, and Daniel Bryan locks in the label lock on AJ Styles. AJ just about manages to get to the rope. He dodges a running knee, tags in Kofi. Kofi comes in, gets flipped over the top rope, taking everybody out, both heels and baby faces, makes it back into the ring, hits Trouble in Paradise, and picks up the win for Team Babyface. Match gets a B, predictable but fun. After the match, Shane McMahon comes out, stands on the ramp, and says, Daniel Bryan, your opponent at Fastlane will be Kofi, Kofi, Kofi. That was a creepy crowd noise there. It's Kofi Kingston. Wonderful stuff. The right choice. Obviously. Go on, Shane. Have a B+. Overall, a decent SmackDown. I'm struggling to choose the best match, but I think it was probably DIY versus The Bar. That's the thing about these NXT call-ups this week, if they are call-ups. They've sort of disrupted the shows a little bit. They're a bit more hard to grade because you don't have the backstory that surrounds the matches. But the matches themselves are all really good. This episode of SmackDown gets a B. Make a B show joke in the comments, I dare you. Speaking of jokes, I normally finish these episodes of Graded with a joke, but I'm going to use this time to make a bit of a public service announcement about something that's really, really important to me. So a recent study has revealed that 85% of people wouldn't open their homes to a sentient water basin who was in desperate need of shelter. Just let that sink in. So that's all from me. Thanks for watching, and you can follow me on Twitter here. If you enjoy what we do here at Cultaholic, you can pledge to our Patreon. That's patreon.com/Cultaholic. And most importantly, don't forget to hit subscribe and join us.